Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to go over chapter 9. And in a previous lecture, we talked about the ways that enable a company to achieve competitive advantage. And we talked about one way is through achieving operational excellence. Then they can have or achieve competitive advantage. Another way is through having customer intimacy. So today we will talk about the applications that can enable an organization to achieve operational excellence and customer intimacy. So before enterprise systems were introduced like ERP or enterprise resource planning, this is how business processes used to be conducted. They used to be conducted in silos, and every functional area, for example, here sales, they would receive a customer order, for example, enter it into their computer and save it in their separate database, sales information system database. And then after that order is received, they will send it in a paper-based and send it. And then again, that paperwork will be delayed because through paper. And then it goes to the warehouse where they need to re-enter that data again into their warehouse computer and to their warehouse information system or database. And then it goes on to the accounting, and you got the idea. Now they are silos. Everybody has their own database, and those databases, they don't talk to each other, and they are using the old-fashioned way, which is paperwork. So this is not efficient. This causes delay, causes business loss. Actually, it's not efficient. As a result of this, we introduce enterprise resource planning, which is a software that integrates a suite of software modules, and they have one central database. So instead of having multiple databases, all of that, enterprise resource planning will have only one source of truth, one database, right? And will integrate all those modules, warehouse system, accounting system, sales system, into one system that they can talk to each other. They are integrated with each other. So we don't need to have middleware between them in order for them to talk, because they come from the same vendor. So we collected same data only one time, and everybody else has access to that information on that data. So this is an example or a model or that shows how enterprise resource planning looks like. So we have a centralized database, and as soon as the data enters from any of those, usually from the sales and marketing department, then the human resource, the finance, accounting, and manufacturing production all have access to that data at the same time. Because human resource, we need to, if we receive an order for production, we need to schedule who is going to work, if there is overtime, and so on, right? And we need to also make sure that we have cash on hand to buy the parts and contract with suppliers and so on, right? So you got the idea. Now, when we have enterprise resource plan, we have one source of truth, one database, and that different functional areas, they are integrated. So enterprise software or enterprise resource planning, for example, is an enterprise software. Usually it combines the best practices in that industry. For example, in healthcare, what are the best practices for a certain business process? How to handle, for example, hiring, how to handle returns, how to handle. So all of those business processes from finance, from human resource, from manufacturing, sales and marketing are actually already embedded in that software. And actually those business practices and the best practices kind of sometimes force the company that adopts this enterprise resource planning or enterprise software to adapt and change its business process to fit that enterprise software, right? So that's a plus. It might have some pushback, but again, that's the best practices. So that means it's the most efficient way to do things. All right, so in order to implement this enterprise software, we need to select the functions or the modules that we want. For example, let's say we want to start with the sales and marketing first as a module. Then we can add production, we can add human resource, we can add accounting, and so on. So it is modular. You can add and customize, and also you can modify and customize as you see fit. But one thing that is not advisable is too much customization of that enterprise resource planning software might degrade the performance of the system, which will not make it easy to maintain, right? So which will basically defeat the purpose of having this system, right? So again, business value of enterprise systems, it increases operational efficiencies, meaning that we are not overproducing and we are not underproducing. So we have the right amount of products, and we that is not too much or too little, just the right amount. And then it will provide firm-wide standards. So for what we mean here by firm-wide standards in terms of business processes, right? Coca-Cola operates in more than 200 countries worldwide, and they need to conduct those business processes the same way. That way, when they are evaluating performance of their ventures or their companies in different countries, they can compare apples to apple, right? And then firm-wide standards also includes definitions of some of the concepts. For example, the sales definition. Now, when we have enterprise resource planning, one source of truth as a database, sales can be defined as sales, whatever the way we want to define it. But before enterprise resource planning, some different functional areas might have different definitions for sales. So we said sales might, the sales department might, or functional area might define sales as soon as the order is made. Then that's the definition of their sales. Then production, their definition of sales is as soon as they ship that or the customer receives their product, right? That might be the definition of their sales. Accounting, their definition of sales is when the customer pays for that product. So that's those are different definitions for the same concept, which is sales. But when we have enterprise resource planning, then we will have one definition that applies to all, right? So this will enable enterprise resource planning, or system will enable rapid responses to customer requests and so on. And those enterprise systems include analytical tools. So those analytical tools can enable a company to compare cycle time. What do we mean here by cycle time? It refers to the elapsed time from the beginning till the end of a business process. So if we have analytical tools in the enterprise resource planning that can calculate the cycle time for us, we can compare the cycle time of, let's say, GE has a manufacturing branch here in the McAllen area in Hidalgo. And they have one in Washington State, they have one in New York, they have one in Singapore. So now we can compare the cycle time of business process that is done here in McAllen to the other branches, other places, and we can see who is doing what and why they are more efficient, so we can spread and share that learning, right? And then also analytical tools of enterprise resource planning can help us identify products most profitable, assess effectiveness of training, and so on. So when we talk about supply chain, so you can think about supply chain as the life cycle of products from birth till it gets to the customer, right? So any product starts with the raw materials. So first process is procuring that raw materials. So raw materials, and then it goes to the suppliers where they convert those raw materials into intermediate materials or intermediate products, which are parts of a product, right? And then they assemble those in the manufacturing, and then they send them through distribution, through customers and consumers. So in other words, supply chain refers to procuring raw materials all the way to transforming those materials into products, all the way to distributing the products until they reach the customer or consumer. So we have two types of supply chain. We have upstream supply chain and downstream supply chain. So when we talk about upstream supply chain, we are referring to the supplier. So the suppliers, and because we have a supplier and tier 1, supplier tier 2, supplier 2, tier 3, and we will go through an example of Nike. And then we have the downstream supply chain that refers to the distribution, warehouses, retailers, until it reaches the consumer. Right? So let's look at this example of Nike. Nike is here in the middle. They don't produce themselves per se, but they have standards, they have requirements, they contract with suppliers who can produce their products for them. And those contract suppliers, we call them tier 1 suppliers. So tier 1 suppliers for, let's say, Nike shoes, right? They have the final Nike shoes, right? But this Nike shoes has parts. One part of it that is the shoelace, for example, comes from tier 2 supplier. Shoelaces comes from tier 2 suppliers, for example, right? This guy. And then this tier 2 supplier gets the parts of the shoelace from other suppliers, third tier suppliers. So for example, the shoelace consists of fabric that comes from one supplier, the dye or the color comes from another supplier, and the plastic shoelace tip that comes from another supplier. So this is what we mean here by upper stream. Comes from the raw materials all the way till we get the full product, right? And then the downstream from distributor to retailer to the consumer. So supply chain management, inefficiencies in supply chain can cut into companies' operating costs. In other words, cuts into profitability of the company, right? So supply chain can waste up to 25% of operating cost, right? So those are, we don't want to be inefficient. We want to be efficient, produce the right amount at the right time. And this is where the concept of just-in-time strategy comes into place, which means we can achieve just-in-time strategy if we have perfect information about supply and demand, right? We have certain demand, then we will produce certain supply to meet that demand, right? So perfect information is important for the just-in-time strategy. When we have just-in-time, then we will have right components arrive as they are needed and finished products shipped after leaving assembly line. So there is something called safety net stock or safety stock. So this is a buffer for lack of flexibility in supply chain. So in other words, safety stock, this is when a distributor or a company or a supplier has extra inventory just in case. They say, oh, we will have extra inventory just in case there are problems with delays from supplier, or there is delay from assembly line, or there is a breakdown in the factory, right? So they have this safety stock, which is a buffer or an extra inventory, right? And then we have this phenomena called a bullwhip effect. So the bullwhip effect, this is when we have information about a product, demand that is distorted as it passes from one entity to the other. Let's look at an example of, so in other words, the bullwhip effect is, this is when companies or different points within the supply chain have extra, or they have safety stock just in case, right? Because they heard or they felt like there was a demand, but this demand is distorted. So let's look at this example here. This is an example from Procter & Gamble. They had disposable diaper where they did promotion for it. So the customer demand went a little bit higher than normal. As a result, the retailers felt, well, there's higher demand, we need to stock up. Yeah, we need to say it have safety stock just in case, right? So they increase their stock or their inventory. And then the distributor felt that the retailers want, so they say, okay, we will increase our inventory and we will have that safety stock. So they increase it a little, right? And then the manufacturer also that comes and they say, well, they have this amount of demand. We will have what they wanted. And also in addition to that, we will have safety stock. So in other words, the inventory and the demand gets exaggerated and distorted while there was not an actual demand to begin with, right? So this is what we call it the bullwhip effect. So supply chain management software are very important because they enable companies to plan for demand or demand. They enable demand planning. So what we mean here by demand planning is determining how much product business needs to make to satisfy customer demand, right? And this system is more accurate, and it helps us as a company to optimize our sourcing in terms of labor, in terms of material, in terms of suppliers, and so on, manufacturing plans, and establish also inventory levels. We don't want to overstock or understock, right? And identify transportation modes. What are the best and most efficient modes of transportation to meet that demand? Will it be through trucks? Will it gonna be through airplanes, or it's gonna be through shipping? Is it gonna be through train? So what is the best? So that supply chain planning system has the optimized solution for us in terms of transportation. Supply chain execution systems. So this enables us as a company to ensure products are delivered to the right location at the most efficient manner, right? So it manages the flow of products through distribution centers and warehouses. So global supply chain have issues because of the distances, the different geographical areas, the time differences, different cultures, different performance standards, different legal requirements, and so on. So, however, the internet helps to manage those global complexities that we just mentioned about. Now, with the internet, we can manufacture 24/7. If we have different manufacturers in different locations throughout the time zones, throughout the globe, and so internet can help us manage the warehouse management, transportation management, logistics, and outsourcing. So when it comes to supply chain, we have the push-based model of supply chain, and we have the pull-based model of supply chain. So the push-based model, which is the old or the earlier supply chain management systems used to be based on, which is to build to stock. Build just to stock, and then if they buy it, because consumers buy it. If they didn't, at least we have that, right? So that's how they did. So they schedule based on best guesses of demand. So it was all guess. But now, which is based web-based, is a pull-based model, demand-driven or build to order. And that's where Walmart, we said, has achieved operational excellence because of its continuous replenishment system that in supply chain, right? So it is web-based tools that enable pull-based, so we can see what the consumers want and want to demand, and then you can build or produce and build products based on the demand. So again, the customer's orders trigger that events in the supply chain. And then the internet also enables the move from sequential supply chain to concurrent supply chain. So now when we have the internet, as soon as the order is placed, now everyone in the supply chain points will have access to that order or to the amount of orders, right? So then when the consumer sets the order, and I give an example of, let's say, Lexus company, Lexus dealers. For example, we have a Lexus dealer here, and they decided that they noticed that in the summer, a lot of people come, they want to trade or sell their Tesla, and they want to buy a hybrid Lexus. And the reason is because they said to one of the salesperson that during the heat of the summer here in the valley, it is too hot. And then Tesla's car they turn themselves on in order to cool themselves because it is too hot. So in other words, they need to be charged all the time in order to cool themselves, right? So consumers were not happy with that, so they wanted to trade their Teslas with a hybrid Lexus. And as soon as that demand is there for hybrid cars, so then the salesperson will need to put orders, right, to the manufacturer. And then the manufacturer will see if they have enough inventory. Then they will schedule, they will check, they will look at the finance department to check if they have enough credit line, and also if the shipment of those hybrid cars. And then if they don't have enough in the inventory, then they need to build new cars. In order to build new cars, they need to notify their suppliers about the materials that they need and the scheduling. They need to schedule their labor over time and so on. So there are so many things that are going on, right? So now, as soon as those orders are put, everyone, the supplier, the other functional areas will have access to that, and they will plan accordingly. They will plan the labor, they will plan the material, they will plan the suppliers, and so on, right? So concurrently or parallel instead of sequential. You put the order, and then it gets to the manufacturer then talks to the labor or the human resource, and then they talk to suppliers to send the material. So it goes through that sequential, which is not efficient, right? So these are the examples of the push-based model versus the pull-based model. So what are the value of the supply chain management systems? So now we have matched supply and demand. We don't want to have, for example, a lot of supply, a lot of inventory sitting there in the warehouse or in distribution centers, occupying space for products that are not selling. So now we are losing on the products that are selling, and we don't have space for them, right? So that's what we call it, opportunity cost, right? And we don't want to have less supply when the demand is high, because we are losing business and people are going to buy alternative products from our competitors instead, right? So reduce supply chain, the value of supply chain management systems will help us reduce inventory levels. That's exactly what we just talked about earlier. And then improve delivery service, speed production time to market, use assets more effectively and efficiently, right? So we can schedule our labor, our sourcing, our suppliers efficiently. So increase sales. That's the most important thing, right? So now let's move on into customer relationship management. So this is where customer intimacy comes to play. So if you have a company in a small town, or you have a store in a small town, you can know your customers by name because you have a small business, right? But if you have a large business, then you have customers from all over the world, and you want to give them that intimacy to make them feel that you know them by name, right? So you will need to have an information system. In this case, is the customer relationship management system, right? So a customer relationships system, it plays the role of the heart that we talked about the first day of classes, where we said information systems play the role of the heart, where they collect raw facts, right? So they collect or they capture raw facts or data about the customers from all over the organization, and then they process that data, They analyze that data, visualize that data, transform it into useful information, and then redistributes it to those touch points within the organization so they can make better decisions, right? And provide single enterprise view of customers in terms of who is the most profitable customer, who is the most loyal customer, who is a profitable product, right? So in other words, customer relationship management systems provides us information about the customers, captures that information about the customer or that data about the customer, integrates it, and collects it from all over the organization. So what we mean here by all over the organization, it collects that data about the customer from sales department, from the service department, which is customer service and call centers and so on. And it collects data also from marketing department, or which is the marketing campaigns, right? And within those, also it collects data from the website, from social media, from blogs, from emails, from mails, right? So all of that information is collected about the customer, and then it is combined and in a profile format, and then it gets analyzed and sent to those touch points. Again, sent it to the customer relations or the customer relations or the service departments, right? Call centers, the sales people, right? They have all of that information about the customer, so that way they can customize their recommendations for the customers when they ask for information. And by having all of that single enterprise view of the customer, then we can identify who is the most profitable, who is the most loyal, which product is most profitable, and then we can build our strategies accordingly. So customer relationships management software packages range from niche tools. So niche tools, what we mean is those are customized websites for certain customers, for example, or large scale enterprise applications. So more comprehensive packages have modules, for example, for partner relationship management systems. So partner relationships management systems is used by companies when they don't sell directly to the customer. Like, for example, Levi jeans, right? They sell their products through JCPenney, through maybe Walmart or other companies. So in other words, they need to have partner relationship management system that is connected to that company's system or customer relationship management system. So this partner relationship management system helps integrate lead generation. So in other words, it identifies the profitable customers or prospective customers, the pricing, promotions, and so on. It helps that company or their partner to be more efficient and profitable, be profitable. So then also they have tools to assess their partner's performance, right? For example, how Walmart is performing in comparison to HEB and selling their own product, right? And then we have employee relationship management. So these systems will help set objectives for employees, evaluate performance of the employees, and provide suggested training for employees. So customer relationship management packages include tools such as Salesforce automation, which basically identifies sales prospect or customers that are interested in our products, as well as their contact information that has been collected from the sales department, from the service department, from the marketing department, and also from the web, from the social media, blogs, third parties. All of that is one profile. So this enables salespeople to provide sales code generating capabilities, right? What are the best recommendations for this customer based on their profile? So customer service also capabilities provided or tools that are provided by customer relationship management packages. So customer service, that means the call center. We need to have this information to our call center. So that way we can assign the best agent to our valuable customers so they can serve them better. They can maybe give them recommendations, and also recommends those software also have web-based self-services capabilities, right? So for example, right now, if you want to get some help with IT from the university, just as an example, and companies do that as well. You don't have to call because that's costly. Call center is very costly. Instead, you can submit your ticket through online, or there are also what we call it chatbots, right? Chat robots, right? They act as humans, but they are not humans, but they have this algorithm, or if you have a question, they can actually solve your problem online. And then also CRM packages include tools for marketing. Again, capturing prospects, scheduling, tracking direct marketing mails and email, and cross-selling. So what we mean here by cross-selling is that, for example, if you are a customer with a car insurance like Geico, right? You are using their car insurance. Now, Geico can bundle their car insurance with house insurance, right? So they tell you if you get a house insurance from us, we'll give you a discount. So in other words, they can sell you house insurance. Or if you have a checking account with a certain bank, and then they can cross-sell you another product that they are providing, which is maybe the stocks, ability where you can buy and sell stocks. Also, they can open an account for you there. So those are some of the examples of the business processes in each of those functional areas, like sales, marketing, and services. And you see here the return management. I used this actually for Amazon. I returned one of the products because it didn't fit. I returned it through Kohl's because they have partnership with Kohl's department stores. So and then they return it for free there. So that's part of the service department, right? And this is an example of customer loyalty management process map. So we have customer information. If we have customer information, then we score that customer in terms of if they are high value and loyal. High value meaning, do they spend a lot of money in our product, in our company? And loyal, do they only buy our product or they keep switching? So that's how we evaluate. And if they are high value, then we provide special offers and services for them. If not, then we route them to an agent. Here they say best agent, but in other words, to resolve that service issue. Right? So operational customer relationship management includes customer-facing applications, which includes Salesforce automation that we mentioned earlier, call centers, customer service support, marketing automation, cross-selling is part of that, right? And then analytical customer relationship management. So based on data warehouses, then provide also analytical customer relationship management analyzes customer data using OLAP, data mining, and it calculates or comes up with customer lifetime value. So what do we mean by that? Actually, the analytical CRM comes up with a value for a customer, a score, customer lifetime value, which is based on the revenue, how much we have, they have spent, or how much we made from this customer as a company, and how much it costs us to acquire and service this company, so the expense, and what is the expected lifetime of this customer, right? So this calculates the customer lifetime value for us. And this is an example of a data warehouse, customer data warehouse that comes from different sources. It comes from call centers, websites, emails, direct mail, and other sources, also third-party data, demographic data, legacy systems, marketing campaigns data, all integrated into the data warehouse. And then from the data warehouse, we can run OLAP, data mining, other data analysis tools, and all of that in order to come up with, to identify who are the profitable customers, market segments, and customer profiles and churn rates, right? So business value of customer relationship management systems helps us by increasing customer satisfaction, because we want to have happy customers. That means they are profitable customers. They're going to buy more from us. Reduce direct marketing costs, more effective marketing, low cost of customer acquisition or retention, and increase sales revenue. That's the bottom line that we want. And then we can also calculate churn rate, right, through those systems, which means refers to the number of customers who stop using purchasing products or services from a company. This is an indicator of a growth or a decline of a firm's customer base. And actually, we will have one of the examples in this class when we do predictive analytics, machine learning, or artificial intelligence later on in this class. One of the data sets is a churn rate, to predict churn rate and what are the factors that contribute to churn rate. So enterprise applications also have challenges, right? So one of them is that they are very expensive and they take several years to get implemented. So, and at the end of, by the time this project or ERP implementation is done, it might have already exceeded the budget that was allocated to it. And as you can see here, the average cost overrun is 60%. And then by that time, maybe the technology has already changed and it's not relevant. There is better technology. And also business process changes. Again, it is recommended that the company who adopted the enterprise resource planning need to change their business process according to the best practices business processes the enterprise resource planning system recommends, right? Because if you do too much customization into the ERP, then it degrades its performance again. And then when you change business processes, then you need organizational learning changes, because there is resistance to change, right? So employees might always say, why should we change our business process? So if something is not broken, why fix it? So that's always one of the reasons, one of the segments that employees say about changes. So again, switching costs, if you, let's say, change from SAP to Oracle, or from Oracle to Salesforce.com, or from Salesforce.com to Walmart Dynamics, right? So those are actually the major four vendors of those systems, right? Enterprise applications. So then data standardization is very important, and that's one of the challenges, cleansing the data and so on. So the next generation enterprise applications, again, those four, what they do is they combine those enterprise systems into one. So they combine supply chain management system and enterprise resource planning and customer relationship management systems, all three in one. So that's integrate those three systems, right? And they are web enabled, make applications more flexible. They are cloud-based versions, and they are run in memory computing instead of using data warehousing. And functionality for mobile platform versions also are available for small and medium-sized businesses. So social customer relationship management. So in other words, they incorporate social media and monitor social media activity, social media analytics. So in this class, we'll use data mining software to extract near real-time data from about a certain company, and then we will run sentiment analysis. And actually, that's what social CRM does: provide sentiment analysis about certain products, certain companies, and see what is right, what is wrong with that company, with that particular product. And then we have business intelligence is also embedded with those next generation enterprise applications. It includes business intelligence, enterprise applications. It includes what-if scenarios, digital dashboards, data visualization, artificial intelligence, machine learning. So data visualization like Tableau, which is acquired by Salesforce.com, right? So that's a smart acquisition for Salesforce. And then we have AI. Also, Salesforce uses Einstein AI for machine learning. So that was all that I wanted to cover today, and I will see you next time.